Okay, get this. This whole story sounds like it was ripped straight from a Hollywood movie. It's about one man, armed with nothing but his own imagination, who manages to fool the entire German high command, literally change the course of D-Day, and help win World War II. But here's the thing, it's not fiction. This is the absolutely true story of Juan Pujol Garcia, who might just be the greatest double agent who ever lived. And you know what's so amazing is why he did it. He wasn't really driven by nationalism, not in the usual sense. As he said himself, his greatest pride came from saving lives. This was a man who absolutely despised extremism and was determined to fight the Nazis without ever having to fire a single shot.
And this just perfectly captures the central mystery of his story. On one hand, you've got Germany's Iron Cross, an award given to him by Hitler himself. And on the other, the British MBE, one of their highest civilian honors. So the big question is, how on earth does one guy get decorated by two mortal enemies right in the middle of a war, right?
Well, to understand that, we have to go all the way back to the beginning, because his incredible career in spying didn't start with some brilliant recruitment. It actually started with a flat-out rejection.
So let's meet Juan Pujol. He wasn't a soldier, he wasn't a professional spy. He was actually a former chicken farmer from Barcelona. But he'd lived through the Spanish Civil War, and he'd seen the absolute horrors of both fascist and communist extremism. It gave him this deep, profound hatred for it all, and he decided he had to do something to help build a better world.
So, with a ton of enthusiasm but basically zero experience, he just walks into the British embassy in Madrid and says, "Hey, I want to be a spy." The British looked at this guy with no intelligence background, no obvious skills, and they politely but firmly showed him the door. They just didn't see what he was capable of. But this is where the story takes its first brilliant turn, and it's all thanks to his wife, Araceli. She comes up with this totally counterintuitive, genius plan. If the Allies won't hire you to spy on the Germans, then you go get the Germans to hire you first. And then you can go back to the Allies with an incredible asset already in your pocket. And just like that, one of the most elaborate and successful deceptions ever created began. And it wasn't built in London or Berlin, but from a simple hotel room in Lisbon. So Pujol goes to the German intelligence service. And you know what? They bought his story completely. They gave him a quick course in spycraft, some invisible ink, a codebook, and a brand new identity, Agent Arabelle. His mission, go to London and build a spy network. The catch? He never went to London. He took their money and went to Lisbon, Portugal instead. From his little base in Lisbon, Arabelle started sending all these reports back to Germany. And he told his German handlers he wasn't just one spy, he'd recruited a whole network of agents. How many? 27. Yeah, you heard that right. 27 completely made up people. Now, how in the world did he pull this off? This is the amazing part. He had never even been to Britain. His entire operation was based on stuff he found in public libraries. Tourist guides, maps, newspapers, train timetables. He invented this whole cast of characters for his network. A grumpy Welsh fascist, some Venezuelan brothers watching ship movements, each with their own personality. And then he wrote their reports, creating this stream of intelligence that was so believable, the Germans bought every single word. Arabelle's little ghost network was so good, in fact, that it started to attract the wrong kind of attention. The British were intercepting his messages, and they were getting pretty freaked out that some master German spy was operating right under their noses. Now, at the time, Britain's MI5 was running this super secret program called the Double Cross system. The basic idea was to capture every single German agent sent to Britain, convince them to switch sides, and then use them as a direct pipeline to feed carefully crafted lies right back to the German high command. Eventually, MI5 put two and two together. They realized this super effective German agent wasn't even in Britain, and that he was, in fact, the same guy they'd turned away a year before. They immediately saw how valuable he was. So in April 1942, they brought Pujol to London. He had, in effect, just passed the greatest audition of his life. His new MI5 handler, a man named Tomas Harris, gave him the codename that would become legendary, Garbo. Why Garbo? Well, as Harris said, it was because he was the greatest actor in the world. And now, he had a real intelligence agency backing up his performance. So, together, MI5 and Garbo kept building the credibility of this completely fictional spy network. And it was all leading up
to this moment, his single greatest performance, one that would change the outcome of the entire war. Okay, so the mission was codenamed Operation Fortitude. As the D-Day invasion got closer, the Allies' biggest problem was keeping it a surprise. They absolutely had to convince Hitler that the main invasion force was going to hit past to Calais, the shortest, most logical route across the English Channel, and that the real landings at Normandy were just a distraction. Garbo was the key to the whole thing. His network of 27 phantom spies sent over 500 radio messages to Germany, all describing a massive but completely fake army group. They called it FUSAG, the first U.S. Army group. The reports said it was gathering in southeast England, commanded by the fearsome General Patton, all getting ready to strike Calais. The Germans swallowed it, hook, line, and sinker. And look, this is what that lie actually meant on the ground. The numbers here are just staggering. On June 6, 1944, D-Day, the main bulk of Germany's defensive power in France, including their critical Panzer tank divisions, wasn't at Normandy. They were miles away, at Calais, waiting for Garbo's ghost army to show up. I mean, the deception was so perfect that even after the Normandy landings started, Hitler refused to move those divisions from Calais. He was totally convinced it was just a trick. For 2 critical months, those powerful German forces just sat there, waiting for an invasion that was never going to happen. This gave the Allies the precious time they needed to secure the beaches. It is not an exaggeration to say this deception saved tens of thousands of Allied lives.
And here is the absolute kicker. On July 29, 1944, almost 2 months after D-Day, Garbo gets a message from his German handlers. They weren't mad, they were grateful. For his extraordinary services, Hitler himself had awarded him the Iron Cross. He was literally decorated for ensuring Germany's defeat. Unbelievable.
So after the war is over, what do you do when you're the world's greatest spy, you've been decorated by both sides, and you're terrified that angry ex-Nazis might try to hunt you down? Well, you pull off one last great disappearing act. With a little help from MI5, Juan Pujol just vanished. In 1949, official news came out that he had died of malaria in Africa. For almost 40 years, the entire world believed Agent Garbo was dead. But then, in 1984, he was found, living a quiet, anonymous life in Venezuela. His own children had no idea who their father really was or what he had done during the war. It's just a story of creativity and courage that's so incredible, it's almost hard to believe. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question for today's high-tech world. In an age of satellites and cyber warfare, could a weapon as simple and as powerful as one person's imagination ever change history on such a massive scale again?